Excerpt from Mary Church Terrell's The Progress of Colored Women. Feeling the great responsibility resting upon them, therefore, colored women, both in organizations under the National Association and as individuals, are working with might and main to afford their unfortunate sisters opportunities of civilization and education, which without them, they would be unable to secure. In New York City, a mission has been established and is entirely supported by colored women under supervision of the New York City Board. It has in operation a kindergarten, classes in cooking and sewing, mothers' meetings, men's meetings, a reading circle, and a manual training school for boys. Much the same kind of work is done by the Colored Women's League and the Ladies Auxiliary of this city, the Kansas City League of Missouri, the Women's Era Club of Boston, the Women's Loyal Union of New York, and other organizations representing almost every state in the Union. The Phyllis Wheatley Club of New Orleans, another daughter of the National Association, has in 2 short years succeeded in establishing a sanatorium and a training school for nurses. The conditions which caused the colored women of New Orleans to choose this special field in which to operate are such as exist in many other sections of our land. From the city hospitals, colored doctors are excluded altogether, to even being allowed to practice in the colored wards and colored patients, no matter how wealthy they are, no, not received at all, unless they are willing to go into the charity wards. Thus, the establishment of a sanatorium answers a variety of purposes. It affords colored medical students an opportunity of gaining a practical knowledge of their profession, and it furnishes a well-equipped establishment for colored patients who do not care to go into the charity wards of the public hospitals. The daily clinics have been a great blessing to the colored poor. In the operating department, supplied with all the modern appliances, 200 operations have been performed, all of which have resulted successfully under the colored surgeon-in-chief. Of the 8 nurses who have registered, 1 has already passed an examination before the State Medical Board of Louisiana and is now practicing her profession. During the yellow fever epidemic in New Orleans last summer, there was a constant demand for Phyllis Wheatley nurses. By indefatigable energy and heroic sacrifice of both money and time, these noble women raised nearly $1,000 with which to defray the expenses of the sanatorium for the first 8 months of its existence. They have recently succeeded in securing from the city of New Orleans an annual appropriation of $240, which they hope will soon be increased. Dotted all over the country are charitable organizations for the aged, orphaned, and poor, which have been established by colored women. Just how many, it is difficult to state. Questions affecting our legal status as a race are also constantly agitated by our women. In Louisiana and Tennessee, colored women have several times petitioned the legislatures of their respective states to repeal the obnoxious Jim Crow car laws. Nor will any stone be left unturned until this iniquitous and unjust enactment against respectable American citizens be forever wiped from the statutes of the South. Against the barbarous convict lease system of Georgia, of which Negroes, especially the female prisoners, are the principal victims, colored women are waging a ceaseless war. By 2 lecturers, each of whom, under the Women's Christian Temperance Union, has been National Superintendent of Work among Colored People, the cause of temperance has for many years been eloquently espoused. In business, colored women have had signal success. There is in Alabama a large milling and cotton business belonging to and controlled entirely by a colored woman who has sometimes as many as 75 men in her employ. In Halifax, Nova Scotia, the principal ice plant of the city is owned and managed by one of our women. In the professions, we have dentists and doctors whose practice is lucrative and large. Ever since the publication in 1773 of a book entitled Poems on Various Subjects, Religious and Moral, by Phyllis Wheatley, Negro servant of Mr. John Wheatley of Boston, colored women have from time to time given abundant evidence of literary ability. In sculpture, we are represented by a woman upon whose chisel Italy has set her seal of approval. In painting, a Bougerian pupil whose work was exhibited in the last Paris Salon, and in music by young women holding diplomas from the first conservatories in the land. And finally, as an organization of women, nothing lies nearer the heart of the National Association than the children, many of whose lives, so sad and dark, we might brighten and bless. It is the kindergarten we need. Free kindergartens in every city and hamlet of this broad land we must have if the children are to receive from us what it is our duty to give. Already during the past year, kindergartens have been established and successfully maintained by several organizations, from which most encouraging reports have come. May their worthy example be emulated, till in no branch of the association shall the children of the poor, at least, be deprived of the blessings which flow from the kindergarten alone.